Good morning, everyone. This week's Torah portion talks about karbanot, which is about sacrifices and taking responsibility to atone for various sins. And when it talks about all the different categories of sins, every time it introduces it, it says, if so-and-so or such and such will occur, and this sin was committed, this and this shall be the atonement. There's one exception, and that is when it talks about the leader. When it talks about the leader committing an offense, committing a sin, it says asher nasi yechta, which means when the leader will sin. Now rabbis say the following. First of all, it doesn't say if, it says when, because every leader will make mistakes. That's embedded in the nature of leadership. As a result of the power, you will make a mistake, you will commit a sin. But here's the key. Asher, Rashi says, is from the word ashrei, fortunate. Fortunate is the leader who sins and admits his mistake. Because leaders will inevitably commit sins. The question is, will they be honest enough to take responsibility and say, I've made a mistake? And fortunate is the generation that has a leader, ashrei. Fortunate is the nation that has a leader, asher nasi yechta, that can say, yes, I made a mistake. Because all too often, leaders will try to blame others for their mistakes. As they say, the buck stops here. That's what it should say on a president's desk or on any leader's desk. But to say, no, it's this one's fault and shift the blame. Someone said when you point a finger at someone, you're pointing 3 fingers back to yourself. You're incriminating yourself, really. Meaning to say that first thing is to take responsibility for yourself before you seek to blame others. It's a beautiful story told about the Steipler Gaon. He was a great sage, lived in Israel, a great rabbi. And when he got older, it was very difficult for him to go to simchas. So he would not go even to family simchas because it was hard for him. Rarely would he go. And one day in a little shul in Yerushalayim, there was a bar mitzvah boy. And suddenly, who walks in? The Steipler Gaon, this great rabbi. And everyone was shocked. Steipler Gaon. People started talking. Is he related to the bar mitzvah boy? Nobody knew the connection. And he went right away. They led him up to the main seat over there where the bar mitzvah boy was in this little shul. They sat him down next to the bar mitzvah boy. He sat there, wished l'chaim to the parents, mazel tov. And then he whispered something into the bar mitzvah boy's ear. And the boy said something back to him. He got up, wished mazel tov, and left. So everyone ran over to the bar mitzvah boy and said, what happened? And this is the story he told. When this boy was 7 years old, he was once in shul. And he was holding a big sefer, a big book. And the Steipler Gaon walked over to him and told the 7-year-old boy, there's a time to daven, there's a time to learn. Now's the time for davening. You shouldn't learn Gemara now. He thought it was a Gemara because it was a big book. And the boy showed him it was just a big print sitter. It wasn't a Gemara. So the Steipler waited for this boy's bar mitzvah to ask him for forgiveness, for accusing him falsely. Because a minor cannot offer forgiveness. He's only 7 years old. So he had to wait for him to become an adult. And now that he was adult, this great rabbi came to his bar mitzvah, and what did he whisper to him? He says, do you forgive me for the time I falsely suspected you of learning during davening, and I told you shouldn't be doing that? And the boy said, of course, no problem. But that's the greatness of a person. The greater somebody is, the more humble they are, and the more they have the ability to recognize their own mistakes and admit them. And that's why the Torah says, Asher nasi yechta, fortune is the generation. We should only have leaders that are willing to be honest and say, I made a mistake.